Nights like this, I wish raindrops would fall.
Instead of going behind my back, bringing in some old drunk...
Stop right there.
I gotta fight every night to prove my love.
It has been over 3 decades since The Five Heartbeats hit theaters, giving audiences a soulful glimpse into the rise and fall of a fictional R&B group. But behind those nice songs and electrifying performances was a storm no one saw coming. Cast rivalries, studio battles, and emotional breakdowns nearly tore the film apart before it even reached the screen. So what really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? And how did the dream project that was meant to celebrate black music turn into one of Hollywood's most chaotic productions? Join us as we uncover the untold truth behind The Five Heartbeats. Behind the Heartbeats drama. The issue started with a simple problem. One person was selling the records and bringing in the crowds, and that person saw themselves as the star of the show. When a lead singer gets paired with a heartthrob, those two forces start bumping heads because both want the spotlight. Michael and Robert ended up right in the middle of this dynamic, and the people making the film knew they had to solve the problem and create something special that would last. Getting there took serious work, because the team had to go through about 25 different drafts of the script before everything finally clicked into place.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Five Heartbeats. Come on, let's hear it for them.
As filming continued, it became clear that something was wrong with Robert. The people working with him could see he was dealing with something serious. Keenan and the team had a private plan. Once the movie got the green light and funding, they would help Robert get the support he needed. To them, it was not just about making a movie. Robert was facing personal struggles that others could not see, and they wanted to help while still pushing forward with the project. Making the 1991 musical drama, directed by Robert Townsend, was nothing like the version that ended up in theaters. Behind the scenes, it was full of problems that most people don't know about, like a real-life Hollywood drama. When Keenan and Robert worked on Hollywood Shuffle, they had to use whatever film they could find. They did not own any equipment. They had to rent cameras, rent editing rooms, and pay for everything with very little money. The budget was so small that they had to come up with creative ways to keep the project going, solutions most directors never have to think about. The filming itself was basically organized chaos from start to finish. Robert couldn't perform but had to direct a lot of complex musical scenes, and there's even a story about Michael Jordan getting frustrated during the national anthem part. What happened behind the camera was way more wild than anything that ended up in the movie. The Five Heartbeats has been praised for years as this deep look at chasing music dreams, dealing with talent and ambition, and all the pain that comes with it. But the real story of how the movie actually got made shows a completely different side that nobody saw, one full of big fights and hard work that never made it to the screen.
I mean, JT, it's like this, man. When the right woman comes along, it's gonna be right.
But what if the chaos during filming was only the beginning? Could the cast's behind-the-scenes experiences show even more than the movie itself ever did? Secrets the cast finally told. What people think they know about the cast might be way off from what actually went down. And stories about the real events have been going around quietly for years. Some actors from the film are finally speaking up, and what they are sharing is catching people off guard because nobody expected to hear about it. People who thought they knew the full story were surprised because the drama didn't stop when the director yelled, "Cut." After filming, wrapped and everyone went home, things got worse and took some dark turns that caught everyone off guard.
And thank you for this gold album, A&B, and I hope we have the same success on my new solo album, Flash.
David Ruffin had the voice and the messy personal life that shaped a big chunk of what the Five Heartbeats turned into. People heard he was planning to go to rehab after the movie finished. Those who knew what was going on said Ruffin had been dealing with overdependence on substances and his own personal issues for a long time, and working on a film that dug into the nasty parts of the entertainment world seemed to hit him harder than expected. When the Temptations announced they were breaking up and David Ruffin was out, it confused a lot of folks because here was this group at the peak with one hit song after another. People kept asking themselves, How something so successful could just fall apart like that? And that question made everyone want to dig deeper and figure out what actually happened when nobody was looking. The people around Ruffin who worked with him said later that he had this charming side, but underneath it was a temper that could switch up fast, and sometimes how he behaved on set matched up with what his character was going through in the story. Some think that reliving his own past and dealing with the tough realities of the music industry while shooting this movie may have sent him spiraling even more. The sad part is Ruffin never got to rehab like the plan was, and he ended up dying suddenly with no warning, leaving everyone to wonder what went wrong. Stories started spreading about pressure from the studio, debts that never got paid off, and bad relationships in the music scene that kept piling on. All of these broke him down during those final years. People often wondered if Hollywood had helped him when he was at his lowest, or if the same system that made him famous was the one that unalived him. His friends, however, mentioned that he had extreme highs and lows, but when things were good, he was genuinely a great person. This incident remains one of the biggest talking points around the 5 Heartbeats, because Ruffin's issue turned a film that was already about the dangers of fame, substance overuse, and betrayal into an actual tragedy that proved how expensive stardom really is. For real fans, the hardest pill to swallow is that the guy who inspired so much of the movie never lived long enough to see what his talent helped create.
Same old size, isn't it?
All these gifts for me?
Yeah, we got even more in the car. Tanya, what you doing?
Oh,
Making the film was a struggle too, with the script getting rewritten at least 7 times, and each rewrite brought arguments between the creative team, big egos bumping heads, and tons of drama. People who were on set during production say some rewrites had nothing to do with fixing the words, but were actually fights about how honest the film should be about the dirty side of the music industry. The journey to bring the 5 Heartbeats to life was filled with passion, pain, and constant rewriting. But if the man who inspired it never got to see the final result, how much of the struggle was really worth it? The scripts and the real truth. Keenan and Robert wanted to create a movie that would stand the test of time and be remembered as a classic. To get it right, they rewrote the script about 25 times. Some versions were thrown out because they dealt with tough issues like racism, unfair treatment in the industry, and how black musicians were taken advantage of, but studios worried that being too honest might turn off general audiences. Other times, the script had to be changed because actors felt their characters needed more depth. Robert Townsend was trying to find the right mix of drama and real-life truth, but things got so intense that people said the writing room felt like a battlefield, with arguments spilling out for everyone to see. Things got even messier because the fake group dynamics in the story started happening for real on set. The script kept getting changed because actors felt their parts weren't deep enough and wanted more interesting characters to play. Townsend was stuck trying to keep things dramatic while also making them feel real. But all the rewrites created so much pressure that the writing room turned into a war zone. Arguments got so loud that the whole cast could hear them, turning what should have been creative work into an exhausting fight.
Because you're doing that same old tired rap you were doing in '65, man. You haven't changed one word. Baby, can you hold me? Can you touch me?
Some versions of the script included tough topics that people didn't like to talk about back then, like substance use, cheating, and the behind-the-scenes power struggles at record labels. These parts led to big arguments, with some studio executives wanting to tone them down or remove them, saying viewers weren't ready to see the darker truth about what black music stars really went through. But Robert Townsend didn't back down. He kept pushing because he felt the story had to show the real struggles that groups like the Dells actually lived through. Townsend's refusal to water down the truth didn't just cause tension during production, it created lasting controversy that followed the film long after its release. If the goal was to honor real stories, why were so many people afraid of showing what those stories actually looked like? Controversy behind every frame. Some critics felt Townsend was too blunt in his approach, arguing that his depiction lacked subtlety and painted the entire era with broad strokes. Others pushed back, pointing out that Hollywood had been whitewashing the struggles of black performers for decades, and Townsend's honesty was the kind of truth mainstream cinema had avoided for far too long. The Five Heartbeats helped create connections in black Hollywood through relationships with Robert Townsend and actors like Michael Wright, Leon, and Diahann Carroll. Behind the scenes, the debates extended beyond critics because some producers feared that depicting racism so openly would alienate white audiences and damage box office numbers. Townsend held firm, insisting that diluting these real experiences would dishonor the people the film was meant to celebrate. The result was a film that angered some viewers, enlightened many others, and continues sparking debate decades later.
You managing the group?
Yeah, man, boys are bad, too. They could wobble.
Whoa.
Yeah, just one little problem, man. We just having the damnedest time.
For fans who truly connect with this movie, the tough scenes aren't just there to shock people. They're meant to show that being famous isn't just about personal struggles. It is also about fighting against a system that profits from talent but doesn't give proper respect or credit. The drama behind the scenes was just as intense, sometimes even more, than what was shown in the movie. The actors in the Five Heartbeats trained together for over 7 weeks, and that pressure led to clashing egos, rising competition, and real arguments. Leon Robinson and Michael Wright later said the tension over who would be seen as the lead singer or heartthrob was the biggest problem of the show. Usually the lead singer ends up being the heartthrob too, but when one person is the lead singer and someone else is the heartthrob, problems are bound to pop up. People who were around during filming say there were times when these arguments got so heated that crew members had to jump in and stop things before fists started flying. Throwing together a bunch of ambitious young actors with raw talent and real insecurities created a situation that was ready to blow up at any moment, which ended up mirroring the exact conflicts the film was trying to show. Then there was Robert Townsend, juggling everything at once as the writer, director, and producer, while also trying to manage all the personal drama his cast was bringing to set. Townsend admitted that some days felt nearly impossible, as he tried to keep everyone's egos under control without losing sight of what he wanted to create. He had to constantly step in to settle arguments about the script, the characters, and which actors should take the spotlight in certain scenes, all while trying to keep the movie on track. Small disagreements often blew up into big fights, leaving everyone tired and stressed. The drama on set drained him, but it proved his point about the music industry and the rivalry, jealousy, and hunger for fame that clouded everybody's judgment. But he made it work because, just like in real music groups, people who didn't always get along still had to work together to create something powerful. The tension on set was not just about clashing personalities. It was also shaped by big decisions happening behind the scenes. If casting and story choices had gone differently, would the Five Heartbeats still carry the same emotional impact it does today?
Yeah.
It's been with us 4 years now.
4 years? Oh, man.
What's up, Bubba?
Almost a different movie. The final cast of the Five Heartbeats was almost completely different, and most fans don't know about the behind-the-scenes what-ifs. At one point, Whitney Houston was close to getting a major role, which would have changed the whole vibe and star power of the film. Studio executives were pushing for a big-name celebrity to boost ticket sales, even if it meant changing Townsend's original vision. Producers also wanted the movie to follow the real-life story of the Dells more closely, worried that a made-up version wouldn't connect with audiences or make enough money. But Townsend stood his ground, saying the film needed strong drama and emotion to really work.
Preach the word of God and expect them to listen, and my own son disobeys me? How does that look?
Townsend had never directed anything before, not even a short film. So many people doubted he could handle a full movie. But he kept things simple, saying they had to try to make it work so they wouldn't regret it for the rest of their lives. When people brought up his lack of experience, he didn't let it bother him. He said it didn't seem that hard since he'd spent enough time on film sets to know what to do. There were also rumors that some actors weren't happy with their roles, feeling they were either miscast or that their talents were not used well. On top of that, production kept changing at the last minute, locations were swapped, key scenes were reworked, and dialogue was rewritten, making everything even more chaotic. The payola storyline, where record labels paid off DJs to play specific songs, rubbed some viewers the wrong way because they thought the film was making corruption and shady industry behavior look appealing. Then, there was the heartbreaking passing of the character Jimmy, whose ending reminded people of the actual tragic losses that haunted real groups from that time period. Some folks saw these moments as over the top, while others appreciated the honest reflection of a music business that was just as cutthroat behind closed doors as it was glamorous on stage. Word got out that certain actors felt uneasy shooting some particular scene, especially the parts where they had to use substances or handle guns or double-cross their fellow cast members because they hit too close to things they'd actually been through. Still, Townsend wouldn't budge and told his crew that removing or toning down those scenes would ruin the entire point of the story he was trying to get across.
You got to have love! You got to have love in your heart tonight!
Townsend's refusal to soften the darker parts of the story wasn't just about creative control. It was about telling the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it made people. If the film had played it safe, would it still carry the same emotional weight and cultural impact today? Dancing through the chaos. What makes this particularly striking is how Townsend chose to show these realities. The scenes with Eddie King struggling with a substance overdose are a perfect example. The film doesn't hide what's happening or make it look appealing. Instead, it shows him getting worse in front of his bandmates, his voice getting weaker, his health declining, while everyone around him can't decide whether to help him or protect the group. That honest approach surprised audiences in 1991 because most movies about musicians either skipped over these problems or treated them as minor setbacks before things got better. The film also shows how black artists had to use back entrances at venues, kept away from white audiences. Even though they were the main performers, record companies would change album covers, replacing photos of black musicians with pictures of white families to make the music easier to sell to mainstream radio. These indignities happened constantly throughout the 60s, but most films about that time completely ignored them. Townsend refused to clean up the history, even when studio executives worried it might hurt ticket sales. The totally amazing and wild thing about the story is that Townsend didn't just write the script, he directed, produced, and starred in the movie as Duck Matthews, a smooth member of the fictional R&B group. The twist was that he could not dance at all. His role needed perfect choreography and strong stage presence, but he took the risk anyway. Calling it risky doesn't even cover it. It was a bold move. Townsend wanted to be the final act, the one who left a lasting impression. He later admitted he was terrible at dancing, but he went for it because The Five Heartbeats wasn't just a regular drama. It was a full-on musical, and everything depended on making the performances look and feel real. Every step, every movement, every slide had to look convincing. He mentioned that he needed to make people believe he knew what he was doing. To make it work, he had to keep his lack of dancing ability hidden from everyone around him, including the cast, the crew, and even the cameras. He relied on clever tricks like smart camera positioning and creative editing to cover up the fact that he had no rhythm whatsoever. Meanwhile, Harold Nicholas, a legendary tap dancer from the Nicholas brothers, was choreographing the film and playing the character Sarge, which meant Townsend was dealing with the irony of his situation every single day. A director who couldn't dance, working with a legendary choreographer, on a production that barely made it through all the off-screen drama, that's The Five Heartbeats, in a way most people never knew about. Making The Five Heartbeats was tough from start to finish. Robert Townsend later said the experience left him with real physical scars, a reminder of how hard it was to pretend to be a dancer while also running the entire production. One of the most emotional scenes in the movie almost didn't make it in. The team at 20th Century Fox wanted Townsend to cut the church scene, where Eddie King Jr., the group's former lead singer, now clean from drugs, sings gospel with his girlfriend, Baby Doll. The cast had grown close, like a real family, sharing both the highs and lows of showbiz and personal life, like when Mike's mom passed away and everyone showed up at the funeral together. In the movie, Duck Matthews walks into the church and hears Eddie's voice leading the song "I Feel Like Going On." That moment marks Eddie's return, mends broken friendships, and deeply moves the audience. But the studio executives didn't see it that way. They wanted it gone, missing the emotional power it carried. Townsend's fight to keep the church scene wasn't just about one moment, it was about defending the soul of the entire film. If studios were willing to cut something so deeply moving, what else might they have sacrificed in the name of playing it safe? Studio fights and star choices. The studio executives said the church scene wasn't needed and worried that showing religion might turn some people off. They also thought it slowed the movie down. But Townsend didn't back down. He fought to keep it because he knew it was one of the most powerful and emotional parts of the film. In his documentary, he explains how he had to deal with studio pressure just to protect the heart of the story. If he hadn't stood his ground, that unforgettable moment would have been cut just to play it safe. Today, with everyone able to record and share videos, the challenge isn't just making content, it's making sure it's meaningful and high quality. Robert Townsend didn't just pick actors for the 5 heartbeats, because he went on what might be the craziest and most ambitious talent hunt in movie history. For the 5 main parts, Townsend personally met with close to 10,000 actors, and he managed to do this while handling every other job on set, including writing, directing, producing, and acting in the film. Open auditions happened in New York, Chicago, and Los Angeles as he searched for people who could act, sing, and believably capture the feel of a 60s Motown-style singing group. Most directors working with the kind of limited budget the 20th Century Fox gave him would have stopped after seeing a few hundred people. But Townsend wanted perfection, and he needed authenticity and star quality, all wrapped up in one person for each role. He wasn't just looking for actors, but for people who could pull off miracles by nailing both the heavy emotional scenes and the incredible musical performances that made the film what it was. The pressure was off the charts, but the results were worth it, because Michael Wright, Leon Robinson, Harry Lennox, and Tico Wells all turned in performances that defined their careers and made The 5 Heartbeats the classic everyone loves today. Robert Townsend had his dream actor all picked out for the lead role, and that was Denzel Washington. By 1991, Denzel wasn't just talented, but was already Hollywood royalty, the kind of actor who could make Eddie King Jr.'s incredible highs and crushing lows feel painfully real. The problem was that Denzel's asking price was way too high and would have blown through the entire budget. Townsend had to accept the disappointment and find someone else, which is when Michael Wright showed up, a nobody at the time who ended up giving what many people consider the most heartbreaking performance in the whole film. Sure, Wright crushed it, but fans can't help but wonder if the story would have hit even harder with Denzel's fame and gravitas attached to it, or if the movie actually got lucky by having a fresh, unknown face carry all that tragedy instead of Hollywood's biggest star. It's one of those classic Hollywood what-if moments loaded with questions and almost scandals that people will argue about forever. Michael Wright's version of Eddie became so powerful and unforgettable that now it's impossible to picture anyone else playing that character. During these shows, the Dells handled all the actual singing, while the actors lip-synced and performed the choreography they had practiced during filming. This mix lets audiences hear the powerful voices behind the story while watching the actors embody the characters on stage. Townsend reversed the typical approach where actors lip-sync during filming but sing live at promotional events. Here, the fictional group performed alongside the veteran R&B legends, who had been entertaining crowds since the 50s, creating a rare opportunity for fans to watch movie characters and musical icons share the same stage. This arrangement solved a practical challenge. Townsend, Wright, Leon Robinson, Harry Lennox, and Tico Wells were skilled actors who could deliver the visual performance through dancing and stage presence. But they weren't trained vocalists who could match one of R&B's greatest groups. The Dells brought decades of professional experience to the vocals while the cast focused on what they did best. During a promotional tour in February 1991, the cast attended a Chicago Bulls versus Boston Celtics game. 12-year-old Tressa Thomas, who played Duck's little sister, was scheduled to sing the national anthem. What should have been a brief promotional moment became an uncomfortable ordeal. What do you think really happened when the cameras stopped rolling? Do you think the cast and crew knew they were making history or just fighting to survive it? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.